Sub here wanted to touch base on a cool feature, cool new product coming up from AIM controllers. So a while back, about it's been about 2-3 months now, I bought a PlayStation 5 controller. So I have been an Xbox player for the last almost 18 years. So I haven't really had my hands on a PlayStation controller since it was the PlayStation 2. I never owned a PlayStation 3. PlayStation 4 kind of came and went depending on, to be honest, when Call of Duty had their betas out for PlayStation only. I'd buy a used one, play on it. So I'm familiar enough with the controller to know I didn't like it. It was very small in my hands. Vastly prefer the thumbstick layout for the Xbox controller from a comfort standpoint. That's personal preference on my end. But the problem with the Xbox controllers is they are by default very locked down. You can't overclock them. They say you can, but in the reality, you don't get to. You're stuck in whatever. They give you with AIM. I know originally the circuit boards were much more difficult to work on, so the ability to really modify the paddles and the back paddles was kind of an issue. You had to decide what you wanted before you bought the controller, which for me is fine because I put all of my, when I use my paddles, I'm playing a first-person shooter game of some sort. And so I always have them in, I put the buttons in the same place, so I always know where to find them. So not an issue for me, but a lot of people, it was kind of a turnoff. And they've since addressed that. But one of the things that's come out is the PlayStation 5 controller, which is actually very easy to modify and add features to. And they have found it to be very profitable to do so. So most of the new features come out first on that and then sometimes trickle down and make their way to the Xbox. Great for PlayStation owners and PC players, not so great for Xbox players, but as someone who is now a PC player, I have finally bought one of these. So I have spent the last few months putting this through its paces so that I can differentiate what is my personal preference between controllers, my not really feeling like I have a handle on how this controller works, some of the software things on the back end, specifically with using it on PC, and then get a feel for the controller itself, and then the AIM specific features added to it. So I've been working through all that, and very happy to report that I actually really like this controller. I'm surprised there's some features I don't like. That is just it's a PlayStation controller, and then that's specific to the PlayStation controllers. But generally speaking, I do really like this controller, and I actually have taken to preferring to use it over my Xbox controller when I'm out, playing on my PC. So W for that. So some of the features that they give you on this controller, on why this is like one of the better controllers that you can get your hands on. For me, as someone who predominantly plays first-person shooters, it is the most important part, aside from limiting stick drift, which we'll get to that in a minute. But the most important part for me is actually the triggers, right? The trigger responsiveness and reaction is by far the most important part of a first-person shooter. You can have all the movement you want, but if the gun doesn't fire when you need it to, if it takes too long, if it physically requires too much travel on the trigger to actually use it properly, you're not going to have as much success as you could otherwise. And so, specifically if you're in the Call of Duty crowd, things like those opening gunfights in Warzone, right? You drop in, you both have a pistol. Whoever can fire that pistol fastest is going to win the gunfight. So this is one of the really, really good inventions that they came up with for the AIM controller. So everyone's familiar with the fact that, on pro level controllers, you can lock the thumbstick, the trigger, so that it limits the travel, right? And so there's usually a slider you can set on some of them, like the Elite 2. You can set how far you can let the trigger. So it has like 3 different stages: short, medium, and long. On this, on AIM controllers, what they have is they have a digital button, right? So as you can see and you can hear, it's a mouse click. It's a mouse click button, all right? So there's no travel really between actuation and pushing it and resetting. And that's what you want. You want it to actuate as fast as possible. It's one of the reasons why single fire guns have always had an advantage on mouse and key, because you can fire, you can pull the trigger faster on a mouse than you can on a standard Xbox controller. And I should have prepped this ahead of time, but I have, for example, the classic Xbox 360 controller. And the travel, right, from starting to pull the trigger to when it resets and has a hard stop, it limits your ability to, it limits the speed in which you can use the controller to fire. It limits how fast you can fire the gun. So big negative. So what they did on aim is they actually, instead of putting a limiter, basically a limit on how far the trigger can move, like the Elite 2 and like most of the other ones out there, they put a mechanism that will actually switch the trigger mode into a different module. So it goes from the mouse click, right, which is literally a mouse click button like you would have on your mouse, right, like you have on your mouse, to a actual slider, a standard trigger movement, right? You can see that it moves smoothly of the full range of travel, and then with the click of the trigger, it's back to the mouse trigger. While we're on the back, it has the 4 paddles, right? These are not paddles in the same sense that you get with like the Elite 2, in which in the Elite 2, the paddles are located, the buttons are located here on the inside, and there's an actuator in the middle, like a hinge in the middle. And so your movement on these endpoints is actually, it can, depending on which paddle you're using and how stiff the aluminum is, you can have actually a pretty high range of travel for the back paddles. So things like slide canceling, right? Things that need to be timed or repeated actions. Like, so for me, I bound my jump and my slide buttons to back paddles. And so the ability to actuate quickly can be limited and you can get out of sync. So in Warzone 1, when slide canceling was, a multi-button operation, it could be problematic, right? So the timing could be off. There could be a lot of movement required to trigger it or to reset it. So it was generally not my preference. I didn't like it, and that's one of the reasons I started hunting for other controllers. The aim controller buttons, so they're actual mouse click buttons. You can hear them actuating. Mouse click buttons underneath, they call it spider paddles. But so underneath these, if I lift it, I'm not going to lift it up and break it. But it's just any other button. So easy to use, comfortable to hold. Like when I hold it, it feels good. They're in a good spot, right? I don't feel like I have to put my hands in a weird spot to use them. So again, a W. And then the big one for aim recently was actually Hall Effects Joysticks. So there's nothing that you're going to be able to see or hear that I can show you, so I'm going to have to just explain it really quick. But basically, these joysticks are much more responsive. And this one, I'm going to say right now, it will come down to a personal preference point of view, because for some people who are very in tune with standard joysticks, it's too much to adapt to and they don't like it. And I've heard that repeatedly from like high tier players, which is totally fine. Like it's understandable. You are very familiar and very comfortable with the equipment working the way it is. And it is what it is. But the difference between Hall Effects and standard controllers. So on a standard controller, the joystick basically has some switches that move back and forth. And as you move the joystick, right, you're pushing the switch, right? And it measures how far the switch moves left and right or up and down, depending on which direction you're moving it. And the combination of up and down gives you diagonals and circles and all those things. The problem is you have physical parts that move back and forth. And between dirt and just general damage, you can degrade those measuring things. And what that does is it gives you stick drift, right? It doesn't return it to 0 every time. Hall Effects joysticks actually use magnets to hold the stick in place, and then it measures the impedance, and so it measures how much resistance it gets from the stick in the magnets that it has inside. And it uses that to determine how far you're moving the stick. It's a much more precise system. It's a much more durable system, right? Because there aren't moving parts. It's just magnets moving back and forth. So the huge benefit is it eliminates stick drift, and it makes it easier to have much more defined movement. But again, some people don't care for that. They're very familiar with how things work on their controllers, so that's all they want. So that is going to be a personal preference one. But the one that I'm excited to show you right now, so I mean, that's kind of like where we are with aim controllers until this morning. So I got a sneak peek about this yesterday. I got to play with it and test it out, and I'm going to show you right now how this works. But one of the cool features is on a PS5 controller, you can remove the covers. Okay, you can remove the covers, and they're held on by magnets, so they just pop on and off, and they click back in. Not hard. And the cool thing is you could buy new designs, right? And so they have a list of designs. You could order ones and order different ones, and they'll, and you can swap them out. The cool part that I'm going to show you now is actually that AIM has given us the ability to customize our panels, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to build out a controller, and we're going to see how easy it is to build a controller and to decorate it. So we're going to design our own snap panels, and then, for $50 you can have them custom printed. I grabbed all of these images, just grabbed them off of Google. If you have, if you want to put your smiling face on there, you want to put my face on there, that'd be weird and creepy. Don't do that. But if you did, it's just a matter of uploading the image. You hit browse file, upload the image, and you're good to go. I've already pre-uploaded these, so we don't have to waste time. Very simple. I hit it. It loads the image in. I can resize it, right? I can move it. I can drag and drop. I can rotate it. I can scale it. So in this case, I want Damascus to cover the whole controller. And I'm going to have some fun here. Let's see here. Warzone. So in addition to using these controls, I can actually go in and resize it. Anybody who's done any, even basic photo editing is very familiar with this, or should be, right? So it's very easy to use, very intuitive. If I want to throw, some of these logos in here, I want to make just a fun little design. Don't judge. It's slapped together quickly here, but I don't know, whatever. Download, go away. And then as you click, it adds the images in, so I can throw some stuff on. Throw one over here, okay? And we can just upload as many layers as we want, resize them as needed, add them, move them around. It's all drag and drop. Very easy to use. Very simple. And when you're done, they come out printing more or less exactly how, that by accident. Some of the cool features, you can kind of see the layers, you can see what order they're in, so I could actually move, right? Move layers up and down in case you want to change what's visible, change visibility. If you are a designer, this is an excellent opportunity to design your own custom controller for your clients, and then you can use this feature to upload it and print your own, your client's own custom designs for their own controller. You're not going to find this very many other places. I don't believe there is anybody on the market doing this right now. Certainly not to this level of customization. So, and then you can just hit there, you can hit file, you can download, you can preview it, you can add it to cart. All right. And off you go. So right there, added to cart, and we are, ready to rock and roll if we want to check out. So AIM controllers, one of the best controller options out there. I believe in it. I have tested dozens of controllers at all different price points. All of them purchased with my own money. I haven't taken money to make these ratings. I have found AIM to be consistently the best quality and consistently have the best feature set, especially, given what we as first-person shooter players need in a controller. And on top of that, they have the lifetime guarantee. I know that my daughter's controller has, she's been rough with it, and had issues with her damaging the thumbstick somehow. Don't know how she's doing it, but they're taking it back. They're going to do some adjustments to at my request. No extra charge, because their customized parts are all lifetime warranted. So if you have issues with any of this stuff, they can take care of it for you. So with that, wanted to run you through the new feature, some of the existing features, and kind of finally give that breakdown of the PlayStation 5 controller that I've been running for the last couple of months. Great controller. I can't complain about the controller, especially compared to like a standard Xbox controller. night and day difference. And yeah, check it out. Links will be down below. And AIM controllers, code SUB1 for a good solid discount on it, and that discount does work on these snap panel customizers. So check that out, and I'll catch you on the next one.